One of the primary aims of this project has been about promoting and celebrating Roma, Gypsy and Traveller culture. We set up 3 workshops across Bristol and South Gloucestershire and worked with children and teenagers from the Roma, Gypsy and Traveller community. This was at Holy Family Primary School in Patchway, in which we worked with Irish travellers mainly, City Academy in the centre of Bristol, where we worked with the Roma pupils at a secondary school, and a traveller site in South Bristol where they were mainly English and Irish travellers and gypsies. In workshops we spent time playing games, for instance with a parachute, as well as playing chasing games that the smaller children liked. And we did this to build the relationship, to break down barriers and to gain a relationship of trust, often at the very beginning as a warm-up to the workshops themselves. It felt like it was particularly important to use play in the workshops. Not only does it break down barriers, but it aids relationship building and trust, and it's also fun, and there was lots of laughter and enjoyment. Play also features heavily when working with the teenage boys in the Roma community. It became a regular warm-up feature in most sessions, and perhaps surprisingly for teenage boys, they really wanted to play games like grandfather's keys, musical chairs and musical statues, and they got a lot of enjoyment from playing that, so we kept those into the sessions. The Roma boys tended to work with dance. They chose to do this, which was a mixture of Roma traditional dance and street dance, as well as doing some art activities, and we even had a session on circus skills. Perhaps it was due to the language barriers, because English wasn't their first language, that they chose to be more physical within the workshops. So dance featured really predominantly in the workshops, and they were very skilled at doing this. At the Travellers site and at Holy Family Primary School, we tended to work more with art materials. The children made old-fashioned gypsy wagons, and they also wanted to draw and make horses, I think because horses are a huge part of their culture. So we made horses, 2D, 3D horses, different size horses. One horse was made out of chicken wire, which was then plastered, and then they spent time painting and decorating this. And they got a lot of fun out of doing it, and a lot of pride from doing it too. In sessions we also worked with stories, traditional folktale, gypsy folktales. One was called The Gypsy's Fiddle, and it tells of the story of how gypsies came by the violin and how they became skilled at playing it. From this we made puppets and peg people, and even created a photo story setting the scene in a puppet theatre that the children made, and then they took photos of this, retelling the stories through the pictures, and made little books from that too. Other things we did were to make shadow puppets, but sadly we couldn't get dark enough in the session, and so the children used a table and actually made their stories that they'd made up with the puppets sort of overhanging over the top of the table. As the relationship grew and the children started to tell us a little bit more about their culture, they made collages of traveller culture, and this stimulated conversations about traditions such as Appleby Fair and Stow on the Wold. It felt really important to work from a child-centred perspective, listening to what they wanted to do and at least suggesting ideas which they could then consent to. I think this was significant in building the relationship between us, because to impose what our idea of their culture was would have been patronising and actually wasn't what they felt their culture was about. So it was much more of a two-way process. The workshops culminated in a final celebration of Roma, Gypsy and Traveller culture, which was at Felix Road Adventure Playground. This was a big event on the 29th of July, which was attended by all the communities involved and their families, and was a really huge success. It was also attended by the Lord and Lady Mayor, who danced on the stage with the children after handing out certificates. Roger Goulding from the Heritage Lottery was also there, and Alf Cooper, who's a prominent member of the Romani community and the Vice Chair of the National Romani Rights Association. We also had a blacksmith giving workshops, and there were also some street dance instructors who came and gave workshops to the children. There was an old-fashioned gypsy wagon that came up from Dorset, This is called a Vado in Romany, and lots of people were able to go and sit inside it and talk to the woman who actually goes into schools and educates people about traveller history. There was a big barbecue, which many people enjoyed, and generally it was a really good and successful day. One of the main aims of the project was to promote and celebrate, and also to raise awareness of Roma, Gypsy and Traveller culture. And the event was very important because it was also attended by people from the local community. In terms of culture, I think it's really important to say that culture is continually moving and changing, and travellers and gypsies are not in a vacuum on their own. They are also exposed to and a part of mainstream culture, which includes popular music and dance. The younger generation of Roma, Gypsy and Travellers are very much a part of this, with a foot equally in both cultures.
Baby, I'm from Patrick, concrete jungle where dreams are made up. There's nothing you can't do, now you're in Patrick. These streets will make you feel brand new, big lights will inspire